focus between the lights because the symbol of light is universal around all the world. Many world religions use light and fire in their, in their worship and in their prayer. So just wanted to give a little, little overview. Many people have seen at First Church the Advent wreath, and the symbol is, of course, the circle of the wreath represents eternity, the timelessness, and then the 4 candles mark the 4 Sundays that approach Christmas. The 3rd candle is usually the pink one for the 3rd week. Here we are, like I said before, we're all here gathered to feast. But certainly this wouldn't happen in ancient days. Advent was almost as tough as Lent, and so there's a lot of fasting. So on the 3rd Sunday, you're kind of halfway through the Advent to get to Christmas, so the church gave folks a break. So on the pink Gaudete Sunday, you had a break from the fast and were able to celebrate a pre-Christmas celebration. So that would represent the third candle. And then the 4th candle. And then some people now have encompassed a candle in the center to be lit at Christmas time. So that Christmas then could be the, of course, the center of the Advent wreath. So I'd like to thank Susie and maybe Cindy who helped out to make this beautiful wreath. Of course, the greens represent eternal life, life forever. So it's a Nordic tradition from the north, but it's now gone around the world. We celebrate Advent with an Advent wreath. So I'd like to introduce Rabbi Gadi, give us a story of Hanukkah and light your candles.
It's so good to see everybody again every year and between the lights of Hanukkah and Christmas. And I underestimate the numbers that Father Roy deals with. This kind of showing is our high holidays. I get this once a year with my congregation, but he sends one email and 150 people show up. So before we light the candles, I thought I'll give you a little bit of a kind of an insight, pun intended, to the light, to what it means to light the candles and the meaning of light. So what's the big deal? We're lighting the candle. There's the fire somehow, and then we light the wick. That's not a big deal. Do you know that this job was considered the hardest job in the Bible? This was the job of the high priest, to light the candles, to elevate the candles. Because to light candles is like lighting people. You tell me how challenging it is to light people. And why is it challenging? Because there's darkness in this world. We say in our prayer every morning that God created light and created darkness. In Hebrew, these two words are different. Boreh, O is light. So God created light only in the way that God can create. In English, there's no nuance for that word. But in Hebrew, it means creating something out of nothing. A human being can create something out of something. And then it says that God, so he bara, created in the godly way the light, but he created in a human way darkness. Now the world is divided to two. Those who believe that darkness is a result of no light, and those who understand that darkness does not, it stands on itself. It exists for itself. There is something called darkness. not just devoid of light. And that's why it's hard to light the candle. That's why it's hard to bring light to this world. Because there's resistance. It's not that there's a void and we come into an empty room. If the light is not in the room, there's real darkness in the room. When we talk about darkness, one of the ways to understand darkness is when Joseph's brothers sent him or threw him into the pit. It was a dark pit. And it says that there was no water in the well or the pit. Not called well, it's a pit. So the Talmud says there was no water, but there were scorpions and snakes. Which means that the lack of water doesn't end there, that there's no water. And water and light are related in the spiritual world. It's when there's no water, there are scorpions and snakes. And I'm going to tell you a story that just happened to me yesterday that exemplified for me what it means, real darkness. So you won't be surprised that the first thing that I will tell you is that I called my bank. So I called my bank because I wrote a check that they sent to me because I have a good credit that I can borrow against my credit card. I'm sure you all got those checks. And it's 0 APR for a whole year. I'm not giving you a commercial about it, but I used it because it was a good thing. I needed to do something in my apartment and I needed $3,000. And I wrote a check against my credit card. It's supposed to be 0 APR. I get an email notifying me that my account is not overdrawn, that I missed a payment. And I never miss a payment, not because I'm so punctual this way, it's just that everything is on automatic payment. So I can't miss a payment, so I called them. And it turns out that when you write a check against your credit card, at least at Chase Bank, it automatically cancels your automatic payments to the credit card. This is the beginning of darkness. Because this, you know, they're waiting for you behind the corner.
Now, in Hebrew, it's very interesting. Money and blood are related somehow in the Hebrew, correct? Am I got it? Same word. Because if you mess with somebody's money, you're messing with their life. Okay, so it's a big deal when you mess with somebody's money. It's their life. Blood is life. So that the word is the same word. Blood and money.
Like livelihood.
Your livelihood. This is how you survive. This is how you live. And if you don't have your money, the way it works. You die. Okay, so we're in problem.
What's the word?
No, if you don't have money, you say God provides. So, you want to continue the story? Okay, so the reason I wrote the check is because I needed a loan for $3,000, right? So I don't have that money to pay for it right now. But what they do, when they stop your automatic payments, it means that from whatever you're going to use the card from that moment, you're not paying monthly, which means that if you keep up with your payment, you're not paying interest at all on a credit card. But once you do the check, and they don't tell you that, the automatic payments stop, and from that point, you start incurring daily interest. It gets better. It gets better. They don't tell you that when you make payments, let's say you make the minimum payment, right, to your account, the money that you pay every month, you would think that if you kept your balance under $3,000, if you borrowed $3,000, then you're not paying interest on that, right? No, they track each dollar, and you start paying on the lower APR, which means until you finish paying the $3,000, anything you spend is now incurring daily interest, and it's not, you're not paying it until you pay all your other debt. You tell me if this is zero APR. I can tell you it's 100% fraud. That's darkness. You know why it's darkness? Because this is design. This is not something that just because somebody forgot to do something, no. This is a trap. What was wrong about the darkness in Egypt and the darkness in Nazi Germany was not that they killed millions and millions of people. Yes, of course. That's in itself is wrong. But in other wars and other places, a lot of people die too. But these are significant because they are designed. There were plans. It's not just a crime of passion. That's darkness. That's when God doesn't just, darkness is not just a void of light. God created darkness. Now that's a big theological question. Why would God create the darkness? But we're not going to get into that now. But it's creating the serpent in the Garden of Eden. It's to create something that will keep us free. You're saying, can this keep us free? You just told me this was a trap. Yes, but to be on your toes, to always be free to choose also, not just between light and the void of light. No, when you're not in the arena fighting, it's not that the arena is empty now. It's the scorpions and the snakes are right in there. That's the menorah. That's Chanukah. That's the light of Chanukah. It wasn't just the battle that the Israelites won against the Greeks. One miracle. But the miracle that we accentuate, that the Talmud puts in the center, is that little jug of oil that was left in the corner that somehow was sufficient for 8 days, for a full circle, when it was supposed to just be enough for 1 day. But what does that mean? It means that we started lifting. We didn't say, oh, we don't have enough for all 8 days, then we're not going to do anything. We get into the arena. You start lighting whatever you have, and God will provide. If you live like this, it's the only way to defeat darkness, is to be active about this stuff. And active when you're afraid, when you don't have enough, when there's a big Greek army and you're just the small Judean region. That's really the story of Hanukkah. It's a universal message beyond the specific message for the Jewish people. But this is how you can rededicate your life, your temple, put yourself in the middle, put God in the middle, put your soul in the middle. Only if you actively understand that battling darkness is a real thing. There's a real thing called darkness. Because when you plan on how to help people, how to make people free, there are people who use their time to create those traps. And I cry for that. I cry for that, not for the money that we'll have to pay interest now. That's what we say Capela. Capela is redemption money. But that some people are in the darkness. They spend their whole day planning those things. That is the sad part. And that's what we need to annihilate from this world. That notion that we will tolerate this kind of behavior. This is the ultimate oppression. It's not, no master held a whip to any slave's back here. But actively put your hand in somebody's pocket is not less offensive. And those powers that try to push it down, the darkness that is designed to keep us that way, this is darkness. And we need, with a little light, to push it up. The story of Hanukkah, but it's a story of every day. It's a story of redemption. With that, we'll light the candles, and after we light the candles, I'll give you a little bit of connection between Hanukkah and Jesus. Stay tuned. First we light, can you hear me? Yeah. So first we light the shamash. This is the priest. This is the high priest of the temple. So the priest first has to be, I don't know, what would you, elevated or?
Now, one thing I do want to point out now, but notice that there are.
Enlightened.
So you have 4 and 4 and 1 makes 9. But the menorah, people call this a menorah. It's not a menorah. This is a Hanukkah. You can't duplicate the menorah. The menorah belongs to the temple. There is one in Jerusalem now that is prepared. If they ever have a temple, it's solid gold. And it is 3 and 3 and 1. 7. 7 days of creation. And a beautiful story Rabbi had or inherited here some of the tradition. So here are the seven. This has got 9, but 7 are shooting light up, and the rainbow completes it. The 7 colors, the 7 colors of the rainbow. That is your idea. Oh, that's right. Sorry, this is kind of giving credit for it. So here's the 7 lights, and now the menorah would have stood in the temple in the Holy of Holies. And there were 3 furnishings in the temple. So as, I'll go this way, so you're approaching, and here's the Ark of the Covenant behind the curtain. Outside the curtain would be the showbread, 12 loaves of bread. And over here would be the menorah, the 7 candles burning constantly. So when the rededication of the temple took place, they only had 1 little vial of oil. It would have lasted 1 day, but it lasted for 8 days. So it could be lit for the entire time. So the miracle of Hanukkah is the restoration of the temple in Jerusalem. That's the temple Jesus would eventually enter, unknown, as another 150 years or so go by. So he would celebrate Hanukkah. It was something from that. That's what you're going to talk about. And so, okay, take it from there.
Okay. So before we actually light the candles, I want to dedicate also, candles are considered like people, as we said, and we commemorate people through the candles. I'd like to commemorate 2 dear people in our community, Project Genesis, that has been going around now for 16 years. of course, John Immel, that I think about all the time, dear friend, of course. And just a few days ago, Chris Ayalo, who also used to work at the shrine, dear friend, she used to send me the clips from articles in the paper where the God squads were quoted. So she would send me those clips. I have them all. I can make something of it. So I want to dedicate those lights to them too. So there's two blessings. The first one is the blessing over lighting the candles themselves. And we thank God for consecrating us with his commandments and commanding us to light the Hanukkah candle. And then the second one is thank you, God, for bringing miracles upon us today, like you brought miracles upon our forebears. So these are the two lessons. I'll chant them in Hebrew. You'll light the candle. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של חנוכה. אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשה ניסים לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה. מעוז צורי ישועתי בחלל שביע כי כל בית תפילתי ושבת תודה לזובע לתחיל ותרע מצהר ונבע אז אגמור ושיר נגמור חנוכת המזבח אז אגמור ושיר נגמור חנוכת המזבח. This is why it's challenging. Some people just refuse to believe. Refuse to, to see. So fun fact, because this is a big menorah, a big Chanukah, I had to bring big candles, and these are actually Shabbat candles. These are the candles that we normally light on Shabbat. You want to keep trying, well, so maybe the last slide of this. Is reserved for the priest. So the interesting in fact, and it actually connects us to the time of Jesus and the menorah and the temple. So Hanukkah means to dedicate, and in this case was to rededicate the sanctuary after the Greeks defiled it and put idol worshiping statue there. So the Israelites cleared it, and the way that the book of Maccabees describe the way they entered Jerusalem is eventually the way Jesus enters into Jerusalem. And Don and I, about 2 years ago, taught that part. And it was just before one of our pilgrimages to the Holy Land. And it was incredible because you make those connections. So Jesus actually celebrated Hanukkah. So for you to say Amen on the candles is no problem. So the candles are actually Shabbat candles, which you can go that way. You can use Shabbat candles for Hanukkah, but you cannot use Hanukkah candles for anything else but Hanukkah. So interesting idea because they're so precious that way. The idea, because exactly of what we try to explain now. Shabbat comes every 7 days, right? So every 7 days we have an opportunity to do this. But Hanukkah is like once a year that we give that big push of light. So we have to be all dedicated, to that. So Hanukkah is really a very, very special, and it goes way back. The Talmud doesn't talk about it too much. It doesn't want to, again, accentuate the military victory. It wants to bring the light into the fun. So I'm done, but we have the cookies here. So maybe one each of the 3 cookies. And then we want to present Don here, Dr. Don Russo. Don will talk about what we want to do this year, introduce a new project that we want to engage in. And while we have you here, we want to interest you in that. Don?
My loan shark has been reached. I'm the silent partner in this triumvirate here. You can imagine why. I can't get a word in edgewise. So just to fit in a little bit about the history of what we've been about, you know that Roy and Gadi have been together for a long time. Well, about how many years have we been? 17. And we've been here for 10 years. About 2 years ago, Gadi comes up to me and says, I want to learn the New Testament. God bless him. So I said, he said, would you teach me? I said, sure. I said, oh, this is a chance to open a bottle of wine every week, sit down with a rabbi, and convert him. Doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. But now he spoke the New Testament better than I am. So, but what we did was we started a project called the Jewish Christian Inquiry into the New Testament. And what we did was that every month we would meet and we would discuss the books of the New Testament. And we got through the Gospels, we got through the book of Revelation. We didn't dare touch St. Paul. He's just too heavy to get through. Maybe someday. But that lasted and was very successful. A large following. Subsequently, we wanted to move on. So for some reason, and the reason being is that Gadi ended up in Rome one day and was about 50 feet from the Pope on Palm Sunday. So he starts going crazy. And in the midst of all of this, he finds out what Vatican Council II was all about. And he started seeing pictures of 2,500 bishops. He started asking about what the procedures were. And so he's, at the moment, he's on a Vatican II high. So he says, why don't we discuss the Vatican Council? So I said, well, that's 4 years worth of a lot of stuff. Let's look at the council and the impact that the council has had on interfaith relationships. So we decided that our new project would be a Jewish Christian inquiry into Vatican Council, interfaith friendships. So we started last month, and we will continue with that. We meet now on first Friday of every month, 2:00 at Peconic Landing in Greenport. What we eventually want to do is we would like to introduce to whatever audience we have the individual religious denominations, both Christian and Jewish, and if possible at some point Islamic, and acquaint people with not just the denominations, but some of the intricacies and inside information about those denominations. Part two, I happen to be the president of the Greenport Ecumenical Ministries, which is a group of ministers which used to be just from Greenport, but now extend from Madison to Greenport. During Lent, we have a Lenten program where we visit 6 different churches with 6 different speakers talking about some topic concerning Lent. And then we have a model Seder after the lectures. This year will be April 13th, I believe. What we would like to do, this is pending the go-ahead and the permission from the different Protestant and Catholic ministers. After the Lenten service, we'd like to spend maybe a half an hour with the minister from the church in which we preach, talking about his particular denomination. So we would invite you to join us on those Wednesdays during Lent. All of that information it's a little early right now, but we'll send it out to you. But we really, really feel the need to talk about interfaith relationships. You know, what was said is the only way we're going to achieve world peace if there are peace among the religions. And that is so true. And I think we've been very fortunate because we have here the nucleus of interfaith friendships. And the more we can stimulate interest in that and make people aware of our commonalities and the beautiful things that we do believe and get rid of some of the misconceptions that we have, our ministry will take on much more meaning. So we would invite you to join us through Zoom and if in person, if possible, to the program that we have during Lent from the Greenport Ecumenical Ministers, and also Project Genesis program that we have every month from Peconic Landing. So if you need any more information, we can fill you in. Thank you very much.